The 1950s. The rise of suburbia. Post-World War II, the economy was flourishing in productivity, and 50 million more people had been born into the population due to the baby boom. The increased population resulted in a demand for convenient housing. In the early 1900s there was a family company by the name of Levitt and Sons. This was run by Abraham Levitt and his two sons. Prior to World War II this company had worked on general upkeep of local homes and companies throughout Rhode Island. After 1947, many veterans and their families reunited. This brought about a baby boom. This rising population required new homes for larger families and they looked to Levitt and Sons for new housing. Since Abraham got older and people still needed help, they began to look to William Levitt, the oldest son. After 18 years of business the father stepped down as the president of the company and became a real estate lawyer, leaving William as the president and planner while the youngest son, Alfred, became the vice president and chief of architect. This family of entrepreneurs got to work and William, as the face of the company, was named in Time magazine as 100 most influential people of the 20th century. They were the main contributors to cheap and mass-produced housing and highways that divided black neighborhoods throughout the urban areas. Fast-moving highways provided easy transportation and migration for the middle class. The community was facing a growth crisis, and the National Association of Home Builders were fostering a broader understanding of the problems resulting land use and pollution. As the suburbs grew, urban areas began to decline. The idea of white flight became more prevalent within communities, and ruined the economies in the neighborhoods that the middle class left behind. In these urban areas, black veterans and their families resided in their run-down neglected homes. After the white people moved to the suburbs their money was taken out of the cities, ruining the cash flow that families depended on. Since a large chunk of tax revenue was removed, schools, parks, and all public areas began to deteriorate. There was no one being paid the valuable tax dollars, so the entire community was neglected. Even if the black veterans had the money to move, many suburbs prohibited the integration of black families, and many banks or financial institutions prevented them from getting loans or any type of help. Those who built and managed the suburbs worries that if they let black people into their exclusive community, then all of the well-off white people would leave, causing them to lose business. Additionally, the GI Bill was implemented to help veterans very commonly discriminated against black people. They weren't offered the same advantages as the white people. As time has passed, we can still see the effects that this segregation has on our society today. Many suburbs are still very uniformed and look very similar to what they did in the early to mid-20th century, as well as the behaviors of the community. There was 3 million acres of land that was swallowed up by suburbia growth, resulting the building of new factories, housing and highways. As the population grew, need for transportation was growing. Each suburb had independent governing system outside of the cities. After the war 500,000 homes were built and more to come the years following. Quiet towns and villages began roaring. Demand for homes was high and the cost of land soared. It increased from 10% with housing, then rose to 15% and even up to 20%, made it near impossible for people to purchase homes and live in the area due to the new taxes, sewer systems, water lines and schools. Zoning laws designed to police the use of land to constrict the rise of suburbs, to prevent the building of lower-cost homes, to keep the invaders on the other side, to avoid being citified, larger lots and wider streets and new government, all paid by the government and taxpayer money. If New York would continue to grow this way, all land within 50 miles would be built up. 1985, the population rose to 185 million after the baby boom. In 5 years it is predicted to rise to 200 million, more than 65% of people live in urbanized areas, and the future growth will take place in the same place. Suburbia reshaped, flexible zoning for population. Cooperation is growing by homebuilders. They join to study land plot concepts and new ideas to support/preserve nature and accommodate housing needs. Government and private support groups founded integrated communities instead of metropolitan areas. Balanced communities were created due to the zoning laws were designed to police the builders' use of land to constrict the rise of suburbs. They wanted to prevent the building of low-cost homes to avoid being built. Innovative ways the communities had balance was the inclusion of parks, schools, shopping centers, townhouses, detached homes, and high-rise apartments. Cluster method, concerned with density over lot size, improved streets, on rough wooden terrain. Townhouse features fenced yard and open space and also effective use of land. Cul-de-sac breaks up roads. There's also loop streets and circle streets, recognition of the need for diversified communities that improve land and nature environment, but cost within reach. Old was conventional subdivision versus new cluster subdivision. But planners needed public acceptance to solve the crisis. Suburbia was a result of the rising economy and increased population. The new highway system made suburbs better for white middle-class families, helping flee from the bustling metropolitan areas, while many black veterans faced hardships in return. Being offered less advantages from white veterans and left in the urbanized areas of the city, black neighborhoods became run down and neglected while the white suburbs flourished. Zoning laws made communities balanced and are the foundation of our societies today.